Welcome to GST Summit 2.0. The summit at the Oberoi, New Delhi, got off to a rollicking start with the panel discussion on anti-profiteering, moderated by Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran. The very first session of the summit had a full house of delegates engrossed into the topic. Here is a sneak peek into what the speakers said. Reduction in GST rates in November has triggered anti-profiteering action by government, observed Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran. Mr. Sridhar of Coca-Cola said, if there is an upstream industry getting goods from downstream industry, then passing the GST benefits should clearly be defined to fit the equation. He also stated that the government should also consider the industry concerns, which hitherto has been bearing the cost of blocked input credits. In the second panel discussion of the day, on GSTN perspective and how technology has enabled GST compliance, moderated by Mr. Vinay Sethi of Thomson Reuters, Mr. Harishankar Subramaniam of EY said, GST is not a mere tax and regulatory reform, it is a business reform. Later in the discussion, technology is the biggest enabler of GST, observed Ms. Kajal Singh, from GSTN. She further said, putting in place GST IT infrastructure has been a learning experience. There are inherent challenges and miles to go for settling down. Ms. Nisha Gupta of Honeywell, during the discussion said, frequent changes in return filing system can disrupt businesses. The third panel of the day was moderated by Mr. Pratik Jain of PwC, on intricacies of e-way bill, has GST achieved supply chain disruption? In a gripping session of discussion, Mr. Siddharth Mehta of PwC explained the intricacies of e-way bill mechanism. It was discussed that businesses would have to revisit the practice of issuing nil delivery challans in case of free samples. Authorities would consider the intrinsic value of goods being moved. Mr. Ramit Singh Khurana, Joint Commissioner, said, e-way bill keeps a check on goods being removed versus those declared by businesses in returns. A mechanism is put in place to help facilitate transport. He also said, movement of goods cannot be stopped upon e-way bill technology failure. Proof of bona fide efforts to generate bill or prior planning can mitigate disruptions. Speaking about the technical glitches, Mr. S.K. Rahman, DG GST, said, committee has been formed to come up with alternative mechanism in case of persistent technical glitches, which can be approved by GST Council. Also said, government soon to come out with FAQs on e-way bill mechanism, which will inter alia cover for bill to ship to movement of goods. The pre-lunch session of the day was well received by the audience. The first panel discussion after lunch was on treatment of exports and imports under GST interplay with customs and FTP, moderated by Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran. During the discussion, Advocate Mr. V. Raghuraman said that time has come to merge administrative functions of DGFT India and CBEC India, will help in efficient governing of import-export transactions. In an intense discussion on the topic, Advocate V. Lakshmi Kumaran raised a very important question to ponder upon. Can Section 37 of Customs Tariff Act levy IGST on imports? He went on to say, treat the transaction as leviable to IGST and allow customs officers to collect the tax, as per practice followed internationally. This particular panel was so gripping that it set the tone for the post-lunch session. What was to follow the session was the most anticipated panel discussion of the day, moderated by Ms. Shireen Bhan of CNBC. It was time now for what was expected to be the panel of the day. It was a panel that was anticipated to throw up a lot of information on ground realities, as the panel included senior government officials like Mr. Mohinder Singh, Member, GST, CBEC, Mr. Upender Gupta, Commissioner, GST Policy Cell, Mr. Manish Kumar Sinha, Commissioner, Central Excise and Advocate Mr. Lakshmi Kumaran. Let us look at some of the important things that were discussed during the panel. Mr. Manish Kumar Sinha said improved IT infrastructure for nationwide e-way bill in place. Government confident of rollout from April 1. Later in the discussion, Shri Mohinder Singh explained that the use of data analytics for ITC matching The senior government officials in this panel explained the need for anti-profiteering measures. Said, action not based on whims and fancies of authorities. Further, they clarified that the government is going slow and monitoring cases before state screening committees. Shri Mohinder Singh clarified that any action will be taken only after fair and impartial process. The officials opined that they would like to have performed better in IT, but the biggest surprise of GST implementation has been cooperative federalism. This particular panel was recorded live by the crew of CNBC and was telecasted at 7 p.m. on the same day. The final panel discussion of the day was on GST litigation trends and input tax credit industry challenges. The session was moderated by Mr. Rohit Jain and the panelists included Mr. Arvind Dattar, advocate Mr. Veeraghuraman and Mr. M.P. Devnath. Mr. Dattar said can't understand the logic of e-way bill where 90% of revenue comes from 10% large corporates who already have proper accounting and IT systems in place. Mr. Rohit Jain of ELP said pro-revenue advance rulings being passed under GST, with no appellate mechanism in place. In one instance, it has been ruled that job work does not include manufacture. Mr. Rohit also spoke in detail about GST litigation landscape, 8 months after launch. The session was well received by the full House of Delegates. The high-energetic panel discussion summed up the day at GST Summit 2.0, 2018, presented to you by Taxsutra and Thomson Reuters.